Hey guys, for this vlog I'm going to be demonstrating the process of how I record my bass covers. So for the first half of this video I'm just going to go through a basic setup of what you would need to recreate my covers. And then for the second half of the video I'm going to be going into more specifics and details of my setup, specifically the audio setup. At a bare minimum, to recreate my setup you're going to need a bass, an audio interface, audio software, a camera with a tripod, and video editing software. So to demonstrate the process of recording my covers, I decided to pre-record a cover earlier, and for this cover specifically I decided to use my Fender Special Edition Deluxe PJ bass, which was made in Mexico. For my audio interface I use a Focusrite Sapphire Pro. I chose it because it's a Firewire Thunderbolt connection, which is a little more reliable and has less latency than USB, but for just a simple bass cover, any audio interface will do. To record audio, I just use an iPhone 6. I use this tripod I got from Amazon, and that's about it. So to record audio, I use GarageBand. There's really not a lot of mixing going on, so I don't really need to use anything more complex than GarageBand. If you're looking for some free audio software and you do not have a Mac, I would suggest using Audacity. So for my covers, I usually just have two tracks, just the bass track and then the audio track. In this case, I'm recording for Paramour's Ignorance. I usually turn down the backing track about 18 to 22 decibels, depending on the track and my bass tone. The reason I have it so low is because if the backing track is too loud, it will get blocked on YouTube. But of course, it also depends on the record label and how they handle that. Okay, so here is what this cover sounds like with these settings. Okay, that's good enough for now. So it sounds good. Usually I will go through the entire cover, make sure there's nothing that's wrong with the audio, but in this case I already checked that and I have already exported the audio. I export my audio as an MP3. Some people, they like to export it as a full audio file, which is usually about 60 megabytes uncompressed, while MP3 is very compressed, about 7 to 10 megabytes. But since this is just a bass cover, usually going with MP3 is fine. So to edit my videos, I use Final Cut Pro, and I used to use iMovie, but I can't use that for my covers anymore, and I will explain that reason later. But anyways, here is the audio clip I imported, video clip. Created a project for it called Ignorance. Here's my audio track, drag it over. So in this song, I know I do some slides. So what I do is I'm gonna boost the video track and see where I do those slides. Oh, right here. Okay, here's the sound waves where I do the big slides. I believe they start here. Let's see. Yep. And what I do to get it precise, I just zoom in a little bit to make sure these two waves are angled up a bit. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to mute the video track. This is important, to mute the video track, and then just use this audio track. I don't actually mute it all the way. Sometimes I add a little bit because I feel like it helps mask the track, so it helps it prevent it from getting blocked on YouTube. I don't think this actually helps, but mentally it helps me relax, so because we get scared about our videos getting blocked. But anyways, let's see. Alright, so I gotta go to the end of the video. Usually cut it off wherever the audio ends or the video ends, whichever one's shorter. And then this will do a fade out for the audio. Now it looks like, in this case it doesn't matter because the audio track ends here, but with other songs the fade out does help. Now that the video is done, I'm just going to export it. Where is it? So I usually export it as 1080p because my version of Final Cut Pro doesn't really let me go higher than that. And then, yeah, and then I'm just going to share this and upload this to YouTube. There's also an option in Final Cut Pro to actually upload it directly to YouTube. which is not a bad option. I like to just keep them separate and have the video myself, just in case. And yeah, that's pretty much how I make my cover. Alright, let's talk tone. So for my covers I use a lot of different basses, and currently this Fender PJ bass is my favorite, but the most important things that really define my tone, I would say, are the strings. Normally I'm using electric strings, which I've been living by for about 4 or 5 years, but now I just tried the new DR Fat Beam strings, and so far they're working pretty well. So the next most important component of my tone is the Tech21 Sansa. I got it about 5 years ago and has completely redefined my bass tone and completely redefined how my pedals sound. It really changes the characteristics of the overdrives and distortions that I have on my board. So for reference, this is my setting for my main rock tone. Note this has changed over the years. I use it mainly for like those Paramore, My Chemical Romance covers and stuff. But for more mellow covers, I use these settings. And like I said, these settings have changed over the years. So the strings and the Sansa are definitely the most important parts of recreating my tone. There are 2 more pedals though that are pretty much almost always on. The MXR Bass Compressor. This is an always on pedal. It'll basically range the volume of where my bass will go. So if you're doing the loud slaps and pops, you don't want them to get too loud as opposed to those quiet notes. You want to be in a certain range. So the MXR compressor does that, just that. So it's always on pedal. And then the next pedal I use is the Way Huge Green Rhino, which is my main distortion. I use it in, well, I used it in this last cover for Ignorance. It's nice because it's hard to find bass overdrive pedals that are really good at having a low gain setting. And while this isn't a bass overdrive pedal, it definitely does the job of having a good low gain setting and retaining the low end. A lot of guitar pedals will take out all the low end when you turn them on. Okay, now I'm just going to demonstrate how all these pedals and the software all come into play together. So first let me just record my bass track with no pedals, no GarageBand amp simulation. So it's just the bass and the audio interface. It doesn't sound bad at all, but I wouldn't say it's anything to really brag about. So now let's just add, what I have, this is my bass DI, just simple DI settings. So here are those settings if you want to take a screenshot, but also note that I will be posting this GarageBand file in the description. So feel free to use this file if you have GarageBand. So let's just move this file over, or the audio clip over to this new bass DI track, and listen to what it sounds like. It definitely sounds a little better. Not amazing, so I'm going to re-record this to the Sansamp. But before I do that, I have my own Sansamp simulation here. It's really doesn't sound that much like a Sansamp, but it adds life to the bass for people who do not have a DI pedal or preamp pedal. So let's just listen to that with my Sansamp simulation. For those of you that want to see the settings, here are the settings for this amp. Okay, that definitely sounds a lot better. So what I'm going to do is just re-record that part using this bass DI with my Sansamp pedal. I don't really like using the Sansamp with this amp simulation. It just gets a little muddied, it's a little too much, so I like to have the basic DI with the Sansamp. Okay, and that's pretty much my basic rock clean tone. Now I don't always use my overdrive, but a bass part like this I would want a little more grit. So let me just show you what it'll sound like with my Green Rhino overdrive at its lowest setting. And then I'm also going to demonstrate the Green Rhino with a higher gain setting. quick, I'm just going to demonstrate why iMovie does not work with the way I record covers. I just set up an iMovie project for the same cover. So if you look here, everything looks fine. Okay, everything looks in sync. But the issue is GarageBand records at a 44 Hz sample rate, and most other applications use a 48 Hz sample rate. So if you look by the end of the cover, everything actually gets out of sync. So we'll watch here. Okay, so if you see all the strumming patterns in the audio, they were completely off. And that's just because of the different sample rates. So you either have to use a different audio or video editing software, or different audio editing software, or you could use these and you would just have to shoot your video at different angles. So that's basically a full review of how I record my bass covers. So if you have any questions or need any clarification on any of the steps, feel free to leave a comment below. Alright, thanks.